Dragon Age of Veilguard was one of the worst video games that I played in 2024. The combat was alright and some of the environments were decent, but the character designs were awful, the storytelling was trash, and it was a modern audience Dragon Age, which absolutely nobody asked for, and clearly it didn't really connect with audiences given it severely underperformed EA and BioWare's expectations, but the mainstream media has tried their best to shill for this game since even before it released, and now we see them doing the same thing, praising the fact that it is now a 2025 Hugo Award game finalist. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, there are a lot of bad video games that release every single year, but there are still a lot of good ones that launch, ones that deserve a lot of praise and recognition, but instead it seems that the Hugo Award is going to push away a potential winner, a game that does deserve attention, in order to make way for a more inclusive game, because Dragon Age the Veilguard is now a finalist. This is an Engadget article, which will matter in a second when they talk about their shill review. It says the Hugo Awards began honoring video games for the first time back in 2021. This week, the organization revealed the list of the 6 finalists for the 2025 award ceremony. It is a cornucopia of critically acclaimed titles from the past year or so. See what they mean? Critically acclaimed. Okay, they're not talking about acclaimed by fans, games that actually sold well, which means people actually liked it. No, no, no. It is what the critics like, what the critics have basically been paid to praise. Let's go over the nominations, it says. 2 AAA titles are up for the award. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom and Dragon Age of Veilguard. There is no world in which these two things should be in the same sentence unless you're talking about how much better Echoes of Wisdom is than the Veilguard. I understand that there were some people who were like, Echoes of Wisdom is only a nice filler game, and I would agree it's not supposed to be like a mainline Zelda entry, but it was still really fun, it was still really wholesome, it ran very well, it was gorgeous, the storytelling was nice, it all around was a very fantastic game. I believe I gave it an 8, and Dragon Age of Veilguard was awful. It was a modern audience, almost young adult Dragon Age that checked every single modern box that you can, using terminology like transgender, non-binary, having top surgery scar toggles. You have characters like Tosh who are basically walking billboards for certain sexualities and themes, and the way that they've been wronged by everybody in their life they wear on their sleeve. Like, it's just not a good game, and it does not deserve to be a finalist in anything unless we're talking about finalists for Piece of Trash of the Year. It says Echoes of Wisdom changes up the franchise formula, casting players as Zelda, which I did think was very nice. I thought that it was very cute. I thought it was very wholesome. It was a very aesthetically pleasing game, fun all around. The gameplay involves summoning monsters and items to solve puzzles and do battles. It's pretty awesome. I will agree with them there, though then they say we especially loved Dragon Age the Veilguard. Calling it BioWare at its best. It's like these people have never actually played real video games. If they think that Dragon Age the Veilguard is a BioWare at its best, they never knew the real BioWare. They never got to experience BioWare at its peak when they were making Mass Effect and Knights of the Old Republic and good Dragon Age or Neverwinter Nights. Like, maybe they should go into their back catalog and play some of those amazing games, and then they would actually be able to say, wow, we understand why people didn't like the Veilguard, but no, no, no. They are sitting here praising it, saying the graphics are fantastic and the gameplay is more action-oriented than previous entries in the franchise. It continues the story of the decade-old Dragon Age Inquisition, but Veilguard almost tries to be a reboot while still drawing you in with some of the existing characters. It really felt like a hodgepodge of, oh, they wanted it to be a full-blown reboot, but they also needed marketing material, so they needed to market those older characters to you. Just really bad all around, though. Yeah, they say that they loved it. I mean, this was their review from November. Dragon Age of Veilguard is beautiful in every way. No, it's not. stop the cap. I can't stop staring at Dragon Age the Veilguard, whether I'm exploring the game's home base in the dreamlike fate or a forest shimmering with golden leaves and wild magical energy. The game simply looks gorgeous. I do think that there are some environments that look decent, but I would not go as far as to say it looks gorgeous or it looks breathtaking or it looks magnificent. It looks good at times, but in a vacuum, not all around. And they talk about the combat, which I did think the combat was okay, but the combat is just a little bit more of a dumbed down version of 100 other games like Hogwarts Legacy. For example, I felt the combat was comparable, but still slightly worse. They talk about how BioWare wastes no time showing off its new aesthetic for Dragon Age. Yeah, people didn't like that. It's like a modern audience Dragon Age. That just did not sit well with audiences. I mean, we know that this game severely underperformed. As you can see here, it underperformed EA's expectations. Let's take a quick peek at the numbers. According to reports, Dragon Age Veilguard failed to meet EA's sales expectations by almost 50%. And if you actually take a deeper dive into what they claimed, it was that it reached around 1.5 million players. So they're not even specifying 1.5 million sales. That could be downloads from EA subscription services. I mean, now, of course, it's on other things like PlayStation Plus. And it's going to go to Game Pass, so you can't really count it there because this was months ago. But that also counted with copies they gave away, with hardware. Like sometimes Logitech will give away games in bundles, and with the Blue Yeti microphones, there will be a code for a game. So if you simply interacted with this game, you were part of that 1.5 million players, but they weren't specifying sales. I mean, this game did terribly for them. This is the end of Dragon Age, which is sad, but not shocking, right? It's sad because Dragon Age used to be amazing, and I'd love a good Dragon Age game, but if this is the direction that they were always planning on heading in for the foreseeable future, if this succeeded, yeah, I, like many other people, am out. They say beyond merely looking great, Veilguard kept me hooked because of BioWare's attention to its characters. Oh my god, the characters were abysmal. Everybody's a victim. Everybody has to, in one way, shape, or form, transform themselves. They either have to announce their sexuality or they have to talk about this bad thing they did in the past and they need to right their wrongs. Like everybody's got a sob story, and it's basically just who is the biggest victim that you are going to end up smashing. It is not good. And the fact that this is a Hugo Award finalist is just crazy to me. They also talk about a few other games that are nominated, but they say the Hugos are also honoring a spate of smaller titles. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes got a nomination. I've never even heard of it. And this was one of their favorite games of 2024. It's a near perfect puzzle game that subverts the genre at every turn. We said it was the perfect game for fans of puzzles, narrative twists, and David Lynch. I love David Lynch. R.I.P. Caves of Qud, I think that's how you say it, is an incredibly deep and lore-heavy roguelike set in a fantasy realm. It was actually in early access for a full 15 years. I think that it's funny that, as you can see on this list, that they're nominating things like Dragon Age the Veilguard, but what games are they missing here, guys? Well, with the list right in front of you, it should be pretty simple to see literally every good game that came out in 2024. I know that they're trying to go with more narratively driven games. Where's Black Myth Wukong? It is literally the Journey to the West story. Why is it that these people refuse to acknowledge that game's existence? I mean, if you're looking for a narrative-heavy game, right there, you have it. That would sweep the competition, but they completely ignore its existence. Not shocking for the mainstream media to do, but very disappointing in my opinion, because that was an absolutely phenomenal game, phenomenal experience all around, and it does not deserve to be ignored just because a bunch of radical leftists didn't like the developers and wanted people to boycott the game because they wanted to be able to accuse the developers of sexism and misogyny in the workplace, which was never founded at all whatsoever. They were just accusations, and those accusations clearly did not work in the journo's favor. So, yes, we have Engadget here praising this lists of finalists, and specifically Dragon Age to Veilguard, saying it really was one of the best games to come out in 2024, which is hilariously out of touch. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.